Hi, I'm Tomas, and in this brief video we'll have a look at how to study better when studying for exams. We'll have a look at three things: active and passive learning, planning for the exam, and managing stress. The best way to look at active versus passive learning is to compare them. If you look at passive learning, this is a kind of learning when you're really just trying to cram a lot of material. It often happens when you're in a hurry or superficially running through things. You will end up what we call rote memorizing material, going over and over the same thing rather than deeply engaging with it. You may end up casually scanning readings and notes, thinking, oh yeah, I've already seen this, or I understand this problem, without actually revisiting the material. You may also end up memorizing things, formulas or structures, without truly understanding them and looking at them from a different angle. Now, this kind of learning is quite exhausting and actually gets more exhausting with time because you're effectively doing the same thing. You're trying to cram a lot of material without engaging or even having fun with it. Active learning is quite different. Rather than trying to cram as much material as possible, what you should be focusing on is making sense and understanding the material itself. In other words, to engage with it. What does it mean? Well, one way to do it would be, rather than just scanning over your notes or scanning over problems you've done in class, to try to rework them and rethink them. This way, you'll start connecting other pieces of information gathered in classes, but also really engage your memory and deeply embedding this material in your mind. What you also may want to do, rather than memorizing formulas and structures, is to think about the general principles or the larger concepts to which they refer and to apply them in different situations. And this kind of engaged way of dealing with material is what makes active learning not only more meaningful, more interesting, but also more easy with practice, because as you start revisiting and rethinking the material, you'll actually get better at doing it. Now we can have a look at how to plan for the exam, because planning is very, very important. First thing, schedule. Are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? If you're a morning person, you may want to give yourself something very technical in the morning, something less technical in the afternoon. Another thing you can do is to divide your study material into manageable sections and always leave a window for just being yourself, procrastinating, and other things. The next thing you should be looking at is a broad overview. Rather than jumping into the material and starting to scan every single page, paragraph after paragraph, what you may want to do is to browse through your notes and lecture materials, which ideally you have been reviewing regularly through the semester, and get a sense of large categories or chunks of material. What you may find out is that yes, you do have 200 pages of text to read through, but all those 200 pages amount to 5 or 6 categories, and once you get a sense of those categories, it'll be easier to grasp the detail on the pages. And finally, it is essential to understand the material. If you just cram without understanding, you will very likely have a blackout during the exam because you have not formed enough associations and really played with the material in your mind to know, understand, and apply it. So what you really should be doing is reading and rereading your notes and relevant text passages, not so much to memorize them, but to ask yourself, what is going on there? What are the concepts? What are the ideas? How do I apply them? And how do they actually work? And if you don't understand them, you may want to go back before the exam while you still have the time to really find a sense of what it is all about. Now we can move to managing stress. Actually, if you follow the first two steps already outlined, active study and planning, your stress level should be going considerably down. But let's have a look at other things as well. You've already broken down your study material into clusters to make sense. You have started reviewing several weeks before the exam. You're focusing on the content. The next thing that can really help you, and this is what the next video will be about, is to make things visual and logical. When you can visualize something, whether mind map it, draw a picture, diagram it, or do any kind of visualization, it will make your memory stick better. So think about that. Sometimes a simple way of making things more visual is to make logical connections, draw it out as a diagram, try to see how things are related, and try to anticipate questions that could be based on this material. The other thing to do would be to divide your study sessions themselves. What you may want to do is do an intensive study block of, let's say, 45 minutes, which is followed by a review block, which is followed by a short break, and then maybe do it again and give yourself a longer break after 3 or 4 sessions. This kind of study will combine intensity, so you're really, really focusing and getting some hard work done, but also give yourself a break so you don't burn out after a day or two of such intensive study. And finally, it's very important that you don't fret too much. A bit of pressure is very good. We actually get quite motivated when we have to do something to a deadline. But at the same time, what you should be doing is really focusing on understanding, focusing on preparation and application of problems, so that by the time you get to the exam, yes, you might be a little bit stressful, but you've essentially practiced the different kinds of questions that could be asked, and you are absolutely ready.